You're listening to Salam.
So, people work in organizations, they get hired, and sometimes that contract gets terminated. Sometimes they mutually decide, look, it's time to move on. Nothing unusual about that. It's a bit more unusual when it comes to a mosque or with regard to an imam, because maybe it happens less than in normal forms of employment. And then it certainly is unusual when you have a situation where the imam, who has been dismissed, and I said it with inverted commas, continues performing his duties as the imam of that mosque. And it certainly is unusual when you have the community where the imam resides, the community of Kenwood in the Western Cape or Cape Town, then decides to picket in his favor against the trustees of the mosque and in support of the imam. That's all unusual. We've been covering the story all for the last few days, first with journalist Hassan Tabada, and then yesterday getting the thoughts of the trustee, of one of the trustees, Jakes Rabat. And today we thought, well, we need to speak to the imam in question because lots of things have been said, and we certainly want to get a complete story, but we think you want to get a full story as well. And so if you're just tuning in for the first time, follow those videos of the previous days, and you will certainly find them. So my guest is Moulana Farouk Rylands, who's the imam of the Waterloo Road Masjid in Kenwood in Cape Town. Moulana Rylands, appreciate your time. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And I appreciate also for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. We're glad you're talking to us because I think we want to certainly get your thoughts. And I pray that so far Ramadan has been going well for you, although I also concede that considering the pickets that were done in your favor, it's not a normal Ramadan. It's a very different Ramadan for you, isn't it?
No, yes, definitely. But all the days, that's for alhamdulillah, may Allah accept it from all of us.
Okay, good. So let me then tell you where we are, right? So I had a chat with Jakes Rabat, one of the trustees, yesterday, and this is what he said in short, very quick ones, and you can comment, right? He said he conceded that in the past the management, the trustees were not consulting with the broader community over a period of time, and he conceded that they've faulted in that. He then conceded that had to change, and they've then allowed extra members to become members of the trust, and at least half of them had to be from the Kenwood community. He conceded that they had to create a management committee that I think either has been formed or is in the process of being formed. Then he said that the imam in question, yourself, when this management committee was being formed and the and the trust of the new election was going to come up, this is the point of departure. He suggested that you, in fact, were agitating, and that's my words, to try and make sure that the people who get on the management committee and the trust were people that you wanted. And he said the trustees were not happy with that because you are an employee of the masjid, unlike the other musallis, and therefore an employee cannot change the employers, and the trustees are the employers. And as a result of that conversation, there was discussion. You were brought up for disciplinary hearing. At some stage, you also highlighted those issues on a Jummah khutbah, being particularly critical of the trustees. Yes, there was this consultation, the disciplinary hearing. Bottom line to all of that, the trustees went ahead and decided to terminate your employment. Thereafter, there's been this picket from many people I'm aware of in support of you in the community of Kenwood, and they still continue posting comments in complete support of you. And then finally, I asked him yesterday, in spite of what's happened and who's right and who's not right, and I'm not there to say that, the fact that you've been the imam for 19 years, and let's just say that maybe they made mistakes, but let's say that you made mistakes. Is there any way that maybe mediation can be part of resolving this issue? And the trustee Jakes Rabat said, at this point in time, the door for mediation has been shut. So that's where I'm going to leave it, and I'd like to get your thoughts on that whole process.
Shukran for the opportunity, Ashraf. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadi alladhina istafa. خصوصا على نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه. I think what I should do rather is to take this debacle as the word that Jakes was using yesterday, to take it from the beginning, because there had to be a start somewhere where, after 19 years at the masjid, there have to be a start, what actually started this whole thing. And if I can maybe take ourselves back, where this whole thing started was, in the beginning of COVID. When in COVID, the decision of the Muslim Judicial Council, as an Imam, I follow the lead of the Muslim Judicial Council here in Cape Town, being the oldest ulama body here in the Western Cape. So I follow their lead. So when the decision was made by the late Moulana Mufti Karan, Allah yarhamu, along with the government, that all religious places should be closed. So we sat down on a Thursday evening, and then we all decided, this was including the trustees. The trustees were part of this. They were part of this shura that we had. So we collectively, in that mashura, decided their masjid will not be open. It will close for Jumu'ah.
Okay.
And there was not a single...
Sorry, for Jumu'ah, for Jumu'ah or for all Salah?
It was for all, because all religious places was to be closed. So there won't be any Jumu'ah the following day. And for all other religious salahs. So everybody agreed. There wasn't a single person who disagreed. So as we walked away from there, everybody was under understanding the masjid will be closed. But the very next day, Ashraf, when I drove past the masjid, I found the masjid open with cars there. And then I went into the masjid and I found the very trustees they brought another Moulana, another Imam, to conduct a Jumu'ah khutbah there. So I addressed them and I said, people, what is happening here? Just last night, we decided collectively that the masajid is going to be closed for all waqts, including Jumu'ah. And why is the masjid still open? So on that particular occasion, when this was brought to the attention of the people who were in the mashura the previous night, the people started getting angry. The people said, and this I'm talking about the community now, the community said that enough is enough. That for too long have these trustees decided to do things without consultation, just doing what they want to do. And on the night of that Friday, 17 people of the community wanted to have a consultation with the trustees. And in that mashura, the community wanted to know, why did they go against what was decided in the previous mashura on the Thursday night? And this is the start, Ashraf, with this whole meeting now, with the trustees, by the 17 people. The trustees I happened to turn this whole thing around to say that I, as an Imam, have now incited the people, to come and speak to them. If it wasn't,
let me just pause, right? Let me just pause and say, on the Jummah, when you saw that the Jummah was open, let's call it that, right? And you confronted the trustees firstly on your own. What did they tell you?
Look, I just told them, I stood in the masjid, there was a few people in the masjid, including the Imam that was conducting the Jummah. And I stopped them and said, look, people, last night there was a decision made. Why is the masjid open? You are going to go against regulations of the government even. The South African government is going against the regulations. There wasn't I didn't give them any chance to respond at that time.
Okay, got that.
It is just that I brought it to the notice of the people that what has happened.
Okay,
and
got that, right.
That has made the people to go and question them.
Okay, so then you met on the Friday night you met, right? I'm just going to push along because that Friday evening, right? And you were there and they accused you of effectively inciting, basically rounding up people against them.
Rounding up people against them while they have gone, against the very regulations of a fatwa that was given by the local ulama body, along with the government regulations. They have gone against that. And that is where everything have started.
All right, so that's where the paths sort of drifted. What was the outcome of that Friday night meeting, besides them accusing you of inciting the people?
Look, the outcome was that the people wanted to be more inclusive. The people wanted to be involved now, because as Jakes yesterday said, that there's been a long years where people were never included in the decision making of the masjid. But here also I need to make something very clear, that Jakes, is almost the entire interview was he made it sound as if the manco, or the inclusion of the people, is something that was like freely done by them. I want to rectify this point. The people's pressure on them has caused them to choose a manco. The choosing of the
so coming out of what happened, Marv, on that Friday in COVID, as a result of that, people realized we are disconnected from the trustees, and the trustees are disconnected from us. As a result of that, the first pressure was we need a complete reform of the running of the masjid. I mean, that's my understanding of what you're telling me. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
People wanted to be involved. People wanted to know, why are decisions made without shura, without consultation with the people. That is
okay.
So,
right. So what happened next? So you speak about the manco and the trustees
yes.
and the additional trustees. Did that then happen as a result of the pressure?
Yes, the pressure that came from the people now made them to decide. I just wanted to clarify this point, because Jakes and Albert made it sound as if they very willingly have included the people, and that is not true. If for years they have had a top-down, process of making decisions on their own, and then the people just come to hear about it afterwards.
Okay, got that. So beyond that, so that was then. Beyond that, I mean that COVID issue about the mosque being shut was like, it's what, almost 2.5, 3 years ago, I think now, right? At least, if I can get my maths right. After that, and the manco issue and the trustees, has the relationship been sour between the Imam and the trustees since then?
No, it has not. That's why I said where it started, because after that I received a letter from the trustees saying that I am going beyond my fiduciary duties as an Imam, getting involved in matters that I'm not supposed to as an Imam. So I asked them, if these irregularities happen in front of me as an Imam, am I not supposed to speak on it? Am I not supposed to bring it out? So it's from that particular incident that from COVID that things just started to deteriorate.
Okay, fine.
After that,
are there any? I mean, ultimately, then, without getting into too much detail because time is against us, ultimately, you then were dismissed. What happened after those first incidences to the time that you finally got dismissed? Anything else that happened that you want to tell?
What I've established as a masjid, and here also I want to rectify another point, and that is it was brought on this very interview before, that as if I've used the Jumu'ahs, and I'm talking Jumu'ahs in plural here, to speak out against the trustees, and that is very far from the truth. What we did at the masjid was, because people wanted to get involved, and people started to talk outside. What I did was I established a Friday night open forum after Maghrib, where people can vent, and ask questions, etc. So it's in these forums that a lot of the things that was questions that was asked to me as an Imam, or things that was brought up where, for example, answers were given. Our masjid, Ashraf, has got the mic system, it records continuously. So the salahs, any lecture, whatever, is being recorded. What the trustees have done was, they have gotten a hold of these recordings, and then they employed an organization that works for for employers, and they gave these transcripts to them, and it was studied, and then from there a case was built against me.
And the case was what? That you, in fact, were critical of your employers. I mean, in essence, right?
Yes. And I'm still very much critical about them for where things are being done.
Okay.
And I just want to make I'm still standing very firm on the point that Jumu'ahs was not used to defame them or to speak ill about them. I've got in front of me, and I will show it to you, the very video that they spoke of. The very video that they spoke of that sort of break the camel's back, if I may use that, that term, for them to say that finish, we can't have a relation with this Moulana anymore. Okay. That, I want to show it to you here. This is it. You will see here, it's a Friday khutbah, right? And they have somehow somebody has taken a video of that, and it's the 17th of December 2021. That Jumu'ah, and in here is transcript, the words of what I said. And in these words, not even a mention of trustees is named. Maybe for I don't know if they have enough time, I can shortly read through it, but there is nothing mentioned of trustees within this the video that they claim they have. What is written in there is, or what I did say is for people to get involved with the masjid. There's a petition that needs to be signed for the people's inclusion in the decision making. That is the wording that is in this document.
Okay. So yeah, we don't have the time to read it, you're right. But what you can do, maybe if you share it with us, we'll certainly post it. At the bottom of the videos, we'll happy to share that. So to confirm that, I want to get this. So to confirm that, I just want to double check this one. At the Jummah, that's the claim you made at the Jummah khutbah. Yes. But the Friday night session was a different session. That was not part of the Jummah.
Night, yes, every Friday night. Because what I wanted to achieve was for people not to speak on the outside, but rather have your say inside the masjid, and get clarity on matters. And this platform was to do with anything. If it is that they're not, and I told them, if this platform is, if you're not satisfied for certain things the Imam does, this is the platform. Tell him this is the platform where if you are unclear about certain matters, please come and speak. Come try and clear it up. That is that establishment.
Okay. When you did that, so Moulana, when you
was used to defame them or speak ill about them.
Okay, when you did those Friday night sessions, goodness, if that was my mosque, I'd be thrilled. I'm just making the point. I would love that sort of engagement at the mosque that I attend. But when you did that, did you invite the trustees as well? And did you inform them that actually this is the type of outreach I'm going to have on a regular basis now?
In fact, two of the trustees, Jakes himself and his son-in-law, who also now both of them being chosen as trustees by the chairman, both of them used to frequent the masjid. And in many of those Fridays, they were present. They were present there. And this is where sometimes people would ask them questions directly. And because people directly ask questions to them, which at times they didn't have any answer to the people, they interpreted that it is my involvement that has brought the people to rallying the people against.
All right, just to tell you, people are commenting on Facebook, on Twitter, as well as on the Salam Media YouTube feed. If we get time, we may pick up on some of those comments. Otherwise, we'll even read those comments even beyond this show. So feel free to add your thoughts on this whole issue between, on the one hand, the Imam of the Masjid, Moulana Farouk Rylands, and the trustees, the Ashrafiyah Trust that effectively governs the Waterloo Road Masjid in Kenwyn in Cape Town, right? Okay, so fast forward then Moulana Rylands to a position. Then finally, they consulted some labor companies, etc. But the bottom line to all of that, you appeared to a disciplinary meeting and then you were dismissed, right? And when were you dismissed, and what's happened since then?
Yeah, look, the exact date is a little bit more than a month ago.
Okay.
A little bit more than a month ago. But on the disciplinary hearing itself, Ashraf, in the very, very beginning, when I was called, I didn't want to attend this hearing at all, because I know that the trustees have now used labor law to get hold of me. They've built a case by using the transcripts, at my addresses, or on the Friday night discussions, and they have taken words and built a case from there. And I didn't want to attend this hearing. I told, it is the public, it is the people that I had mashura with in the masjid. They have encouraged me, say, Moulana, rather attend this hearing, and they even went as far as to employ a legal representative for me, to sit within this hearing.
Okay.
But I told them right from the beginning that this hearing is going to come to nothing but a dismissal. This very hearing that Rawat was speaking about had two chairmen. The very first chairman recused himself, saying that I don't want to be part of this, because the only people benefiting from this are the lawyers. This was the words of the first person.
Was that the existing chairman at the time?
That was the
chairman of the
existing
trust.
chairman, and this chairman was chosen by them because it was an internal hearing, and apparently they have the right to choose a chairman, of their choice. So that chairman, he recused himself. Then they chose another chairman, and as the days and the weeks have gone on, when they got hold of this so-called video that we just spoke about earlier, they said to my representative, I wasn't present at the time, he said to them, look, we have enough proof now. And they said to the chairman then, look, here's enough proof, you must please pronounce on Moulana, meaning that you must pronounce that he's dismissed. And the chairman then said, but I haven't given Moulana enough chance to defend himself. So what they did was, they recused that chairman also. They themselves recused the very chairman that they have chosen, the second one. And then they pronounced then a dismissal upon me.
And I just want to get clarity so we understand this. There's a difference between the chairman of the trust, right, versus the chairman of the disciplinary committee. Am I right? They're not the same person. Yeah?
No, look, both chairmen were chosen by them.
No, but what I'm saying, that the chairman of the trustee, whether they call him a chairman or an amir, I don't know what
it's a difference, yes.
That's a different person, right?
Chairman of the trust.
Yeah, that's important.
He's the chairman that oversees the hearing.
Okay, got that. Okay, so bottom line to all of this, you were then dismissed, right? On what grounds were you dismissed? What did they say in the dismissal?
As Judge have indicated, that being insubordinate, right, and getting involved, according to them, in matters that I, as an imam, am not supposed to get involved in. I just want to mention one particular point. As an imam, and I think this is all an imam right across the world, our duty is to see that the Sharia prevails, that the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet prevails. That's our duty with regard to fairness. Now, if thing comes up, I just want to mention one point, because with regard to the Manco issue, Ashraf, I would love just to request from you to give people of the Manco a chance also as an interview. They can speak for themselves as to whether matters between the trust and Manco was very hunky-dory, whether it was a very friendly relationship, Allah knows best. They can speak for that. But what I want to point out is, when irregularities take place, for example, I said, the chairman of the trust doesn't live in the community. I told them that is khilaf sunnah, meaning it is contrary to the sunnah, because he calls himself the amir. I said, whenever has an amir lived away from his people, and I gave them an example of the Prophet, peace be upon him. I gave them an example of Mu'adh ibn Jabal, when the Prophet sent him to Yemen. He didn't allow Mu'adh to rule from Medina. He sent him to Yemen to go and stay there. So I used that as an example. What they said was, when Manco was formed, and they said, the argument they used was that the trust can live, they've got the right to live outside of the area, As for Manco members, they must live inside the area. Now, for me, this is blatantly unfair. This is blatantly unfair. So as an imam, do I keep quiet on this? Do I, is it my, is that my duty to say what is the correct thing? So when I used to speak on things like this, they interpreted that as I'm undermining, their position.
Okay, got that. Let me move on. So I hear that. So you were dismissed, right? Just over a month ago. I understand, according to Jake's Rabat, you continue to perform your duties as an imam at that mosque, although you've been dismissed. You're not getting paid for the last month or so. You simply still taking up that position at the minbar or at the musalla, right? Why are you doing that?
I'm doing that because I asked when the news came via my representative that I've now been dismissed. I then informed the people in the Jumu'ah, because they all know that there was a hearing and they were very, very curious to know what the outcome is. So I told them I've now been dismissed. However, I will still continue to serve this community until the trustees or anyone would come and tell me, which of Allah's laws have I violated? Which of Allah's laws have I violated? Which of the Sharia have I transgressed? Until somebody come and tell me, and I said, if of the trustees can come forward and say, Moulana, you have violated Allah's law here and there, I said, Wallah, I'm in the mud, I will walk away. But until such time that no one can come forward, it's more than a month now. It's more than a month that I've made this claim and no one has physically come forward. However, what has happened is, and yesterday, Jakes made a claim that if he wants to, he can vent all the information he's got.
Yes.
He already has done that. The trust already has done that. They have, while Jumu'ah was on last week, they have placed in the windshields of the people, and in some of the cars while Jumu'ah was on, they've placed a over 40-page document. And that document has gone even on social media, to say why, what route they have taken to sort of dismiss me.
Okay, so I think that the key issue here is, and if I understand your point, is your role as an imam and I'm using my words carefully because I'm not directly involved with your words, is your role as an imam and how you see it in implementing the Sharia as per the commands of Allah and Allah's Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, according to how you see it on the one hand, and the trust in terms of how they interpret the role of an imam who is appointed to do just that, but on the other hand, according to them, is also flouting labor laws in a secular country. And the question then is, in putting those two parts together, there's bound to be tension, and the question therefore is, which one of the two holds sway? Which one is more important? I mean, did you see that like that too?
I always see as the Sharia will always be supreme. The law of Allah Ta'ala will always take precedence, especially it's a masjid. A masjid ought to be run by shura and by the guidelines that the Quran and Sharia has placed in front of us. That is for us as Muslims very, very important to understand. And therefore, I've taken this stance that I'm still waiting for any of the trustees to come forward to say, look, you are not worthy of the musalla because a person who commits major sin cannot lead people in salah. He will be regarded as a fasiq. So until such time that somebody comes forward to tell me that you have done this, that, and the other, like I said, I will walk away. But if that doesn't happen, I will still continue.
But you'll continue as an imam. But you'll continue as an imam. But I'm just saying, imams do get paid to preside. You have to run your life. You will continue without getting paid by them, right?
Yes, definitely. I'm not going to be paid by them, but I will still continue. And Allah Ta'ala, like I say, my reliance, Sheikh, and I've taken this stance, and I've even asked my family to stand with me on this one. Where it's going to end, Allah alone knows. But I'm still going to stand very firm, because I firmly believe that I have not violated, I have not committed any major sin as far as our deen is concerned, as far as Allah Ta'ala Sharia is concerned.
So 2 points before we wrap up, right? I'm aware of the protests. I'm aware of those placards, and I understand the numbers were pretty large, all very much in support of you on the one hand, and also many of them critical of the role of the trust, and many of them calling for effectively a reform of the trust. It needs to be more consultative, more delivering on the will of the people. I did ask Jakes Rabat yesterday to say, ultimately, do you ignore, the will of the people if the people wants this imam and not somebody else, for example, right? But I'm also aware, as the point that Jakes Rabat made yesterday when I asked him, is there any way, considering you've been there that long, that there can be some sort of a mediation? And as I told you from the outset, he said the doors of mediation are shut, right? Now, my question to you now is, where do you go from here? I mean, what's the next step?
Look, Ashraf, before I answer your question, the entire interview of Rabat was about a democratically elected country that we are living in. Democracy. He made a lot of statements in that regard. But do you know, and the people out there, that Jakes Rabat, along with his son-in-law, along with the present chairman, the entire trust was not democratically elected by the people. It was a self-appointed.
So was there no election?
Sorry?
Was there no election of the current?
No election. Nothing. Right. Nothing. The people
and how long have they been? How long have they been trustees? I mean, has there been an election every year thereafter, or
nothing.
No election whatsoever?
It was they've appointed among themselves as trustees. In fact, Jakes Rabat and his son-in-law was just randomly chosen recently by the present chairman. The chairman, who's now the current chairman, was just randomly chosen by the previous chairman, was Farouk at that time. He just made the current chairman, who's Ahmad Vayej, made him the chairman. There's no involvement of the people. There's no democracy that has taken place that Rabat has spoken about. Nothing like that. It's only amongst
themselves. I just want to get, as someone who has a sense of some governance, and being on mosque boards myself, you can have an election, and then, at least whatever the constitution says, whether it's every 2 years or 3 years or 1 year, you can have a re-election of a trust. But generally speaking, most trusts do have the power to co-opt a member as a trustee if there's a vacancy, because sometimes you can't wait for another election if there's a vacancy.
But even that,
you have that power. Yeah.
Even that, Ashraf, with all fairness, the trust deed gives the Amir or the chairman such power that he can choose whom he wants to come on as trustees. That is why he lives outside of the community. He now has he chose Jakes Rabat and Jakes Rabat's son-in-law at random to become trustees. They then applied for the letters of acceptance by the High Court. And even at that time, when the people used to ask them come and address the community on the issues that the community to ask, they stayed away. They never came to the masjid until Jakes Rabat have received his letter of acceptance. His son-in-law has accepted. So when the two of them got their letters, then only the chairman and Jakes Rabat with his son-in-law then came to the masjid. They then said to the then Mako, we would like to speak to the people now. They came to the masjid on that particular night, and then Jakes, he quoted a verse from the Quran, which is not his place to do. He says, وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْكُمْ, which means, oh people, you have to obey Allah, you have to obey the Prophet, and those in authority of you. So I stopped him. So I said, Jakes, you got no right to quote that verse. As if they were coming to tell the people, we are now the bosses of this masjid. We are now, calling the shots, and the whole, whatever they came to do there, it went haywire. it went haywire because on that particular night also, the current chairman announced to the people, I've just been made chairman by the previous chairman, and the people said, but we had no input in it.
Yeah.
We had
Okay.
there was no process,
All right.
including the inclusion of the people.
All right. Let me wrap up by saying the people who had the placards, the people who protested, right? Two things. What do the people want regarding the Imam of the Kenwan Masjid, yourself in particular? What do they want regarding Moulana Farouk Rylands? What do they want to happen regarding the Board of Trustees? What do they want to happen regarding Manco? And if we can wrap up after that, please.
Look, Ashraf, there are two things. One is my issue with the trustees, and I will still stand to what I, very firm onto what I said earlier on, that I will still preside as the Imam there. Secondly, is the other issue is with the people of Kenwan is with the trustees. So it is the people's decision. I've made the proposal, and I will still make, and I will make this proposal openly again for so many times. That I've told the trustees, if there is turbulence within our community, if we have our community at heart, then let both of us really walk away from this. I walk away, you also walk away, and let the Kenyan community decide who they want the trustees and the Imam to be of this community with a fair election, with the inclusion of the people. So the people, as on the question, it is their, their wish to be included in the decision making of the Kenwan Masjid.
Okay, and I mean, you heard what Jake Roberts said. The doors of mediation are closed. So from your point of view, let's get clarity.
Can I just?
Yes.
And this is again where Deen comes in. If Allah Ta'ala, who's the creator of all mankind, can be so forgiving with the worst criminal if he makes tawbah. In this whole process of this hearing, I have twice I have, against my own wishes, but I have opted for reconciliation. Both was rejected by them. There was a third occasion when I applied to the Muslim Judicial Council to get involved, and the Muslim Judicial Council contacted them to say, look, can we sit? They rejected that as well. So I'm asking the question, what have I done, that is such, in crime that the door is completely closed? Or is it an agenda? I don't know. I'm just asking this question. How can the door be closed by you as a person, as a human being, with the Almighty Allah has left his doors open for the worst people on this earth to come back to Allah Ta'ala? Well, I have not committed a major crime, but the doors have been closed. It says a lot.
Lastly, where do you think, I mean, there's so much, there's so many comments, I can't read them, there's just not enough time. I'll certainly look at it my own way. The last thing, where do you think, so your wish list, I got it, your wish list is like you'd love to be back as the Imam, or to be officially confirmed as the Imam, and if not that, you're happy to walk away and ask the trust to say, you both walk away, both of us, and let the people decide. Now, my guess, this is just my guess, right, that if that's the case, the people are going to vote in a board of trustees that may well be supportive of you, and there's a good chance that you could well be reinstated. And I'm only saying that anecdotally based upon the fact of so many people who posted comments on social media and the many people who came out on placards. So in fact, if you walk away and they walk away, there's a very good chance that you'd come back and they may not come back. But bottom line to all of this, right, what do you think will happen at the end of the day?
All I can say at this present moment, as far as my position is concerned, is that Allah Ta'ala knows best. I will still continue to preside as the Imam. The trustee needs to come forward physically, and I'm making an appeal to them. They have, they've gone into hiding. They hide behind WhatsApp messages. They sort of hide behind this organization that they've employed to do their rhetoric for them, but they themselves doesn't come. Do you know, Ashraf, that the current chairman hasn't been in the Masjid almost for the last 3 years? Sheikh
Well, now I
Sharafat has
know.
not been in the Masjid for months.
Okay.
His son-in-law has not been in the Masjid for 2 months. So how do you are trust of a masjid, but you don't attend the masjid yourself? For almost 3 years, the chairman has not been there.
We need to wrap up 2 things here, right? I didn't ask this to Jakes, and I probably should have asked him this. I must tell you that. I would have asked him, Jakes Rabat, is there anything as a trustee that you'd like to apologize for? Although I never asked him that, he did concede that their consultation in the past has been poor. He conceded that. Let me ask the same thing to you, Moulana Farouk Rylands. Is there anything that you'd like to apologize for?
Yes, if for example, that I've come across very harsh, and I, as a human being, could have maybe done something more better, and for that reason, I've proposed twice a reconciliation. Twice I've proposed reconciliation, and if there was a chance given for reconciliation, this is where we can ask one another maaf and ask for forgiveness, and life goes on. But both occasions, a reconciliation even was thrown out of the window by the very trustees. Why? Right. Allah alone knows.
Okay, and here's the last thing then, right? The last point. Are you surprised, and what has been your reaction overall to the large numbers of people of your community of Kenwan in Cape Town who've actually come out and openly supported you?
Look, it is only because this is Allah who puts things in the hearts of people. This is my belief. Allah puts in the hearts of people how people will react. So the large amount of people that are giving support, I'm very, very much overwhelmed with that, and I'm saying, Jazakumullah khairan to all of them. But at the end of the day is how I interacted with the people. I've never been away from the musalla. I've never ever been, with regard to my job, interacting with the people in Kenwan. I've never ever neglected the people with Allah's qadr. I've never ever neglected my musalla. And my interaction with the people speaks for itself. And therefore people know me. And that is why people are reacting the way they did. I'm not forcing them. It is Allah Ta'ala that puts that in the hearts of people because of my reaction with, with my interaction with the people over the years.
Okay, got that. I tell you what, I mean, and this is just my personal view, and I'll make it very, very personal on the issue of reconciliation and mediation. You quoted previous examples of Allah forgiving, the biggest sinners of them all. In the South African context, our democracy is premised on reconciliation, and we know that from 1990 up to 1994 and what happened there. So if you ask me, my opinion to both the trust and the Imam, I would say if there's any opportunity for mediation, please take it. It is that important, considering the investment of 19 years made by the Imam, notwithstanding what he may or may not have done. I'm just saying it to all of you, if there's an effort to do that, do that. On a final point, I thank you for your time, Moulana Farouk Rylands. I pray, inshallah, there's some solution to all of you. And as someone who lives in Johannesburg and who does come to Cape Town often enough, I would certainly love to attend the mosque in Kenwan one of the days. The big question that I don't really know is when I'm there, inshallah, one day, who will be the Imam of that masjid. Assalamu alaikum. I thank you for your time.
Wa alaikum assalam. Jazakallah for having given me the opportunity. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shukran.
Shukran. Thank you so much. Well, there you are. Lots of comments that have been posted. Can't read them all. We will certainly get to them. We really appreciate it. Lots to learn from this. I think the broader issue is the management of a masjid and the Imam, and how does all that fit in? And perhaps are there causes? Is there a model to follow in terms of what South Africans need to do in the management of a masjid? I don't know, because if I know, I would have told you. Think about that. Let me just tell you, coming up with Julie Ali in a moment, or after 12 o'clock, in fact, what is the Be My Voice, one cookie at a time? And the guest there is Sandy Pakia, who's the mother of Joshua Sandy, who is 15 years old and living with autism. Something that you need to consider. The value of the voice. Isn't that what we've been talking about all the last half an hour and even longer? Until tomorrow then, Assalamu alaikum.